through the eyes of the megaminds of our time. The diagnosis. A pro analysis. Every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Relax Radio.
Is working in the real estate industry will no longer have to wait for their next job. Property Doctor is the trusted partner for all property maintenance.
Through the eyes of the megaminds of our time. The diagnosis. A pro analysis. Every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Relax Radio.
Hello and welcome back to the Diagnosis with Amika, a pro analysis where we talk about, different fields of different professions. Now, I know that you are currently expecting Aiden to come and do the show, but then, hey, surprise, it's Amika here doing the show, The Diagnosis, my show, which was actually stolen by Aiden. But then I'm just kidding. Aiden, if you're watching, I'm just kidding. I want you to know that I'm just kidding. So, anyways, I think that you guys might have noticed that the studio today looks very, very, how can I say, very bright because we have a bright personality with us. And that's Malshi Dissanayake. Hi and welcome, Malshi.
Hi, Mika.
Okay, it's actually wonderful to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
Obviously, yes. Before we move on, how have you been? How's life?
Life's been busy. I've been occupied with all the stuff that's going on. So
Okay. I mean, with the current situation in the country as well, I think life is very busy, right?
yeah, because we have to keep up with everything. And
Exactly. So I know you very well, but then the listeners, I think not everyone might have a very good idea about who Malshi Dissanayake is. So go ahead and tell me, who is Malshi Dissanayake?
Okay, so Malshi Dissanayake is a 20-year-old 9 to 5 marketeer, a psych undergrad on weekends.
Okay.
And also with a bunch of side hustles, being poetry and handling online business, and also hosting and dubbing on the sidelines as well.
That's a lot. That's actually a lot. How do you feel about it, honestly? Maybe a rough idea about, Malshi Dissanayake being this versatile person. What do you feel about that?
I guess it's a matter of like I don't want to choose between like my passions, so I'm here trying to do it all. It's rough actually. It's not an easy thing to do. But I don't want to choose one over the other.
That actually does make sense now when you put it out like that. So starting off with poetry, because even I have a thing for poetry, so I think we should start off with poetry. How did you get into poetry?
How I got into poetry. I used to write since I was like very small. When I was in grade 4, I remember that I wrote it's like a book with like 100 something kavi. It's like poetry, but like not exactly. It was okay. So that's where it started. But even since I was like very small, I had a liking for reading and writing. But poetry, like I took it seriously like a few years back, a couple of years back, like 4 to 5 years back, is when I started taking it very seriously.
5 years back, what made you take it seriously 45 years back? Was there anything that happened? Was there a Volta in your life?
So it was like for me personally, writing is how I express. It's my creative expression. Certain people, how they communicate with the world. Certain people find it really. Some people, it's really easy for them to express their emotions. Some people do not understand what they feel. Others, they do understand what they feel, but they don't know how to word it, right? So it's like for me, personally, this is the way I communicate with certain people. Like, for example, I found it easier for me to write about certain emotions than actually talk about it with people. So it is my outlet for like this is very personal, right? It is my outlet for expressing certain emotions that I am sometimes too afraid to word out. Like,
That does make sense.
yeah.
That's actually very interesting when you like, put it out that way. Because, you talk poetry, honestly. You talk poetry, which is very interesting. So, what was your inspiration for, starting to write poetry? And, since your childhood, were there any writers that particular writers that you like, were interested in reading the poetry?
So like like my like best most like influential person when it comes to my writing is my mom, because she writes as well.
Oh, that's
And
interesting.
there was a time of my life when I was like really little. I wouldn't go to sleep without a bedtime story. Like, I wouldn't go to sleep until she read me a
Oh, you
bedtime
want your
story.
mama to read one?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but that time I couldn't read. I
Uh,
was like very young.
yeah.
So yeah. And speaking of writers, like my first like favorite book was I was 7 or 8 years old. For my first favorite book was Hat Petimala.
Oh,
uh,
yes.
uh, it's a translation of Rainbow Flower by
Yeah.
Valentine, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, that was my first like favorite book as far as I can remember. As like, yeah.
Like when it comes to poetry and poets, do you have like any poets that you like?
Um, Poetry. I really like Rupa's work. She's really
Oh,
good,
okay.
and she wrote Milk and Honey. Those books. Yeah, and she does stand-up poetry as well. So
So
yeah,
that's like something we have in common because I like Rubika's poetry as
yeah,
well because she's adorable. She's
yeah.
very good.
She has a really like she has a voice actually. Even her stand-up poetry is very captivating. Like, you can just um so like it's not just writing, but when you like say it like in front of an audience, that personality and how personality is to you, and like how deeply you feel about what you write, it actually shows. And she's really good at that. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I do have to agree with that. Now, since poetry is something that you're very passionate about, where does poetry stand in your life?
Like I said, poetry for me actually it's very personal, right? It's a way of it's one of those things. It actually keeps me sane in a way, because it helps me like, okay, I use, as we talked about earlier. So I have this that going on in my life, and whereas like I consider myself a very like workaholic person. So poetry helps me like wind down and relax, and like actually put my okay, what am I feeling today? Like, it helps me keep in touch with myself, my emotions. And it helps me when like it helps me keep up with like, okay, so my mental health is also important. And sometimes when we work really hard, we forget to
Take care of
yeah,
ourselves.
we
Yeah.
forget to take care of ourselves, and we forget to check in on ourselves, right? And we forget to listen to our body and like what we're feeling and all of those things. And poetry is a way for me to like wind down, breathe, and chill a little, like, because my lifestyle is very hectic and I'm always running here and there. um yeah, so like, and the field I'm working in and also the other stuff I do, it's very like active and always like on the go, kind of feel like go go go, work work, kind of. lifestyle. So it's like a way for me to like detach from all of that and actually get in touch with my body and like how I'm feeling and express myself and like me in my own bubble. So it's very personal to me, but it's like very fascinating how people relate to that, right? Because like when we write about something and someone is like reading that, like okay, so there I have come across this before, whereas like, oh, like my friends tell me, or like somebody who read my poetry tell me, oh, you word it very like this is how I feel, like I was waiting for someone to like write it down, like this is how I feel, like I didn't know like how to say it, but you said it perfectly, like this is what I wanted to say. Like they feel in a way, like they feel like they relate. And sometimes, let's say we're going through something, we're going through a heartbreak or we're going through a difficult situation, and we all like we go online and we see a quote, or we see like a poem or a story or like a quote, and we feel like, okay, if it's a motivating quote, we feel motivated. And if it's even if it's like even if it's like an emotional quote, let's say it's a sad quote, it's a very sad thing, it's a very sad story, but we read it and we sympathize with that. We like we feel something, and like it can make us feel something, and sometimes it makes us reflect, right? And it also makes us like feel relatable to that person. It makes us feel like we're not alone, like I'm not the only person who is going through these emotions, right? Because like I'm reading something that somebody else wrote, so like we feel understood. In a way, we feel understood, we feel like it's relatable, we find comfort in that sometimes. So yeah.
So, like when, as a poet, when you get such a compliment, such a feedback from your friends, you feel that you've won, right? In a way.
Yeah, actually, it's like for me, um, like it's not about writing for a huge audience. Sometimes it's about like you can change someone's whole mood with a poem. Like let's say like the first thing you wake up and you go on Instagram. Let's say you're one of those people, because I have been there. And let's say you just open Instagram, and the first thing you see is like a motivating poem or like a like relatable poem. And you're gonna be like, huh, yeah, that's so true. Like it can change your mood.
Yeah.
Like it can make you feel like it can make you emotional. It can also like give you motivation, like give you all these type of make you feel things basically. So it can change, like okay, that's the first thing that you feel, okay, the first thing that you see, because most of us we do this thing where we wake up and we go on our phone. uh, so when the first thing you see is like uplifting, relatable, comforting, that can change like the whole day. That can change how you go into your day. And sometimes it's not about like a lot of people, but if I can change like a one person's day, if I can make one person feel comforted, or like if they find like if they find that my writing is relatable, or if they read it and it makes them feel something, it makes them reflect, that's a big deal for me.
It is indeed.
And because when I write, I don't write of with that intention. I don't write with the intention of like it's very personal to me. I write with the intention of when I see that okay, so other people it is comforting to me as well. And also like if it's just one, even though it's like even one person, that just like that makes my day as well, knowing that people are relating to what I write.
Exactly. And then you feel as if, oh, I'm not the only one who's going through
Yeah.
this. And then
And
you feel very pretty strong and confident. Yeah, I can
yeah.
do this. Then if they can do this, I can do this
Yeah,
too.
humans are pack animals. Like they want to relate to other people.
Exactly.
We crave for social inclusion. We want to feel included. We want to feel like a lot of people know what we are going through. We want to feel that. So I guess it's one of those mediums that makes us feel that way. And yeah.
That was a perfect answer, actually, Margie. Like a very perfect answer, I would say. Now, since we're talking about poetry writing and everything, I'm just straight away going to ask you, is poetry writing a hard thing to do or is it not?
It's just like any other form of art. For me, you have to just let it flow out of you. Sometimes it's the random things, sometimes the very little and random things out of nowhere gives you inspiration and like, oh, I want to write about this. Oh, that's a nice concept. It comes out of nowhere sometimes, and it just uh, for me personally, I can't let it like I can't force it. Like it has to come naturally. Like I have to be naturally motivated, and like I can't be like, oh, I'm gonna write today. Like I don't know,
Yeah.
maybe for some people that is possible, but for me I can't be like, I'm gonna write today, I'm gonna write about this today. No, it doesn't work like that for me. Like I just wander around and I just think, oh, that's a nice thing. I should write about it, and it's just words just come into my mind, and it's just I just let it flow. Yeah, because I don't like I went through a situation current like very recently, where I had to perform for an event, and they told me to give a 7-minute performance, and my poetry is usually very short. It's
Okay,
very
short and
short.
sweet.
Yeah, like yeah, I wanna convey the message with the least amount of words, and like it's usually like one stanza. Like it's really short. So like I can't. So they wanted me to like extend the performance for 7 minutes. So I had like no way to do that. Like I was trying because I can't use one that I've already written because they're very like short. I have written series of poetry where like okay, there's part one, two, three. It's like a
Yeah.
continuation. It's like a story, but in this particular situation, it didn't quite fit the vibe. So like I had to write one to perform on
Completely
that
new
day,
one.
completely new one, and it was like one of the most difficult things because it didn't come naturally because I had to
Yeah.
like sit down and be like, okay, I need to write to perform this. So for me personally, it's something that comes from within. If I'm like feeling something and I just need to write it down and like put it into paper, put it into rhymes. But for me, I just can't force it. It doesn't work well for me.
So like when you give out the random vibes, when it flows automatically, it becomes ultimately it becomes the best work that you've done, right? Like one of in a
Yeah,
way.
like
I could I think I've read like a lot of your poetries and I think that's what happens. Like well, generally everything I find it very cool and I do relate to a lot as well and I really appreciate the work that you do. But then is it not that case? Like the ones which flows automatically, they ultimately become the
yeah.
one of your best work.
Because whatever that flows out naturally, I guess, is the most relatable.
Yes.
Yes, and people like again, like I said, they like what is most relatable, right? Like even it's not just when it comes to poetry, even on like other like forms of art and stuff. Like if you see on YouTube, right? Most like people with a lot of views are very relatable. We follow people we relate to. We
Come to
like
think of it, I just thought of it and then yes, it does make sense.
yeah, like we follow people like okay, so why do we watch like daily like we why do we watch vlogs? Why do we watch like let's say okay, if we watch a how to video, it's like okay, we because we let's say we want to learn it, right? But why do we watch like daily life and lifestyle bloggers and like vlogs of like YouTube series and stuff? Like why do we sit there for like 20 minutes and watch it? It's
Watch
because
another
it's
person's life.
relatable. Like we wanna know. It's like, oh, I do that too. Like I'm normal. I do that. Like, it's not totally weird. Like, you know what I mean?
I do.
So I guess the whatever I write out of like out of a whim, like whatever that comes out naturally is the most relatable and it's the most true. And I think it speaks volume, and it is my
Yes.
true voice, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
it's the message that I wanna like convey to people. So yeah, I think they do better than the
I
others.
honestly do agree with that. I think yes, it does happen not only just in poetry but in everything in life, I guess. That's what it hap- that's how it happens. So if you want to like go check out Malshi's poetry, make sure you follow her on her gram. I guess you
Yeah.
share your work on your
Yeah,
gram,
my
right?
handle is at Malshi Writes. You guys can follow me there and you guys can see my work. Yeah.
Yeah. That being said, don't stop there. Do follow Relax Radio as well. We are available on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok as well. You definitely have to make sure to go and follow our TikTok page because that's some content that you don't want to miss out. And also follow, not follow, just subscribe to our YouTube channel and also download the Relax Radio app because that way we can stay connected anywhere, anytime. Now back to. So wait, I have one interesting question. Back to Malshi. Do you ever have thought of, publishing a book, collecting everything that you've written so far? It's just a random question that just popped up.
Actually, I do have an idea to publish a book,
Mhm.
but I don't want to spoil it.
Oh, okay,
Okay,
okay.
I don't want to
That actually
give
does
out.
make sense. I'm
I don't
sorry.
want to. I don't want to give out any of the tea. But yeah, I that would be the dream. A book deal would be the dream.
Mm, that would be perfect. You have to make sure that you just give it to me, like one of
Yeah,
the
I'll send you a copy.
Please do. A signed copy, that too. And also, when talking about poetry, since you're very passionate about poetry, since even I'm passionate about poetry, so I want to talk a lot about poetry. Don't worry, we'll get back to the other stuff as well. So, how do you think, how normally when you write, how do you develop a poem? There might be people out there, the audience out there who are interested in writing, but they really can't get to writing. They don't know how to write a poem properly, how to start. Do we start from the beginning, or should it go as a flow, or can we like write something and get back to it later? How do you
Um,
normally do it? How do you do it?
Actually, all of those things, actually, because
Everything.
yeah, because sometimes, like, okay, sometimes again, like I said, it randomly pops into my
Yes.
head. So sometimes while I'm working, a random idea pops in, and I just go to my notes and I just write this down. Oh, I want
Nice.
to write about this. I want to speak more on this topic.
Mhm.
So, like you said, that also works, and then I come back to it when I'm more like relaxed, and I can actually
Mhm.
think about. But when it does come into my mind, the first thing I do is I write it down because it's a bit messy in here. It's just like
It's
the
okay to be messy.
yeah, it's girls got a lot of work. So it comes and goes. So like whenever you get an idea, like that's like you should write it down. You should definitely write it down, and just not just ideas, like in your life in general, write as much like it works for me. So yeah, I write it down. And when it comes to developing a poem, like I said, some things like sometimes it just come natural to me, and my poems are pretty short,
Mhm.
so it doesn't take much
Ah,
time
yes,
as
that does
well.
make
Like
sense.
I think about it and then I write it, and sometimes it only takes me 5 to 10 minutes to be
Oh,
done with the poem. But sometimes poems take days.
yeah.
So like I said, it's not just one thing, it depends on the poem. Like it's again, it's a very personal thing, whereas some poems, like even I don't know, like even I think, okay, how am I to word this in a way, like how am I to word this in a way where I don't offend anyone sometimes, and how am I to word this in a way that like the others, okay, how am I supposed to make the person who reads this feel the same thing I'm feeling.
Yes. Sorry to
So
bother you much, but now you said that you have to word things in a way that you won't offend the
yeah,
reader.
yeah.
Is it a necessity when it comes to poetry? Or
uh
is it like the general guidelines, that general principle of your life?
It's like this. When it comes to art, actually, you should be people should be free to express
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
We people should be free to express whatever they want, whatever like their personal opinion, because it's just art. Like it's just a personal opinion.
Yeah,
Like
you can
people
take it
can't,
or leave it.
yeah, like people can't question you,
Yeah,
it's just how you feel, right?
exactly.
Like you don't have to necessarily agree with everyone. So when you make art, even when you write a song, write poetry, you don't have to be concerned about what the other person think as much. But what I said earlier is, what I was trying to say is, how should I not offend them in a way. Like sometimes we try to say something, but it goes like it doesn't come off the way we want to say it. Like
Yeah.
people can misunderstand that
Yes.
very easily, right? Like you can say the same phrase in like 10 different like, okay, so when you're talking to someone, right, you can say the same thing but mean different things by the tone.
Yes, that does make
But
sense.
when you're reading, you don't hear the tone they're writing in,
Exactly.
so it's just the word. So someone could read something I wrote and get a completely different idea, and they can get offended that way. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
because what I think of, like, like how you read, like, okay, so if you miss, like, so there's a voice in everybody's head, right? So whatever I write, you are gonna read it in, like, in your voice,
Mhm.
right? Because I'm not talking to you, I'm writing, you're reading it from your voice. And like when you read it, certain, like, sometimes as humans, certain things that we relate to, like, we get offended very easily. As humans, we get offended
Yes.
by everything and
We don't
anything
even
on
have
the
to talk
internet.
about that. We do.
So sometimes we're like, oh, I can't believe she did that. Like I didn't even say that, right? So they have already, like, related
Mhm.
it to some of their experiences, and they have a complete different opinion to mine. But the thing is, like, how the reader reads it, and the meaning of, like, what I write can mean something completely different to another person, right? So what I said by not offending anyone is that I should always, like, think, okay, how can this can come off in a complete different way to a complete different individual, right? So to a certain extent, I guess we have to be aware of, like, what we put out there.
Exactly. Now, when you put it out like that, it does make sense, like very good sense. Now, juggling everything, how do you fit? How do you find time to write? And that too, like perfect, good writing. How do you find your time?
That should be okay. So time, okay, that is okay. That's the most, like, the hardest thing I deal with is time. And more than time, like, the what I find difficult is that, okay, so when I'm when I'm writing, that mindset is different from when I'm working.
Oh,
So
yes.
I have a problem with, like, okay, I need to switch, like, like, okay, like, again, like I said, like, I'm always a work, 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 go, go, go person. So how do I like, I go from that to being, like, very calm and content and listening to my thoughts. So that, like switching to that, winding down, that is really hard. Like, because, like, finding time to like tap into the other sides of me, that is really, that I find that difficult. Because it's not just about, like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to use, like I said,
You're
sometimes
not
it,
that person.
no, like I said, like, it takes me sometimes 10 minutes or like 5
Yeah.
minutes. So it's not that I can't find that 10 minutes out of my day, it's not that I don't have 10 minutes free. It's about, like,
Fixing the
the,
mood and the
yeah,
vibe.
the other 30 minutes that's going to take me to just, like, calm down, right? So yeah.
So it actually depends on the situation and everything. Now, since we talked about your timing and everything, I hope that you'll know she runs her own business, which is the Puppy Fit.
Yeah, okay,
Cute
so
name.
yeah, it actually, like, it means puppy outfits, puppy fits.
Oh,
Okay.
oh, wow. Quiet,
Okay.
yeah. Now, how did Puppy Fit came into being? How did you start
um
it? What made you start Puppy Fits?
okay, so
Puppy
puppy
outfits. That's
fit.
actually, I would never think of something like that.
Actually, it was like, so I have a business partner as well. It was me and him who started the business. We started it at 2021 Feb. So it's not been a long time, but it has developed into what it is today, which is from where it started from scratch. So puppy outfits. Like, my friend and I was talking. So my friend has, like, the most bizarre, like, out of nowhere ideas. Like, every week he would just call me up and tell me, "Shall we do something like this? Like, oh, I have this new idea." He would talk about crypto, like, all everything. Like, he's a super, like, ambitious. Like, he has the most cool, like, creative ideas, and I am more of the realist. Believe it or not, right? I'm more of the, like, I always look at when he tells me one of his ideas. I'm like, okay, so how are you gonna go do this? So how are we gonna make that a reality? How do we get there, right? What is the plan, right? So actually it was his idea to make outfits for puppies, and, like, we we say we now, like, we have actually, like, we make outfits for cats as well, like,
Cute.
yeah, but like, it's like initially it was
Just
puppy,
puppies.
yeah, the name and everything, just puppies. So he's a huge dog lover, and I'm a cat person. So
Okay, so
uh,
like we started off with his likes and now we're moving to yours. Okay.
okay, so like, and he was like, "Oh, shall we do something like this?" And I was like, "Okay." I said, "Okay," and I thought it was one of those things where he's gonna forget it the next week, right? So I was brushed it up. I was like, "Okay," and then no, he didn't let it go. He was like, "No, we can do something like this," and I was like, "Okay." Okay, let's do it. So I did more of the branding part. I
Mhm.
came up with the name and the logo,
Mhm.
and he it was his idea at my branding. So yeah, that's how it started. And like, yeah.
It's actually very cute, to talk about what you love and like, bringing it out. That's actually very cute. Now we have a lot to talk about puppy feeds and a lot more to talk about you. But before that, we have to move to a short commercial break. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short commercial break.
Through the eyes of the megaminds of our time. The diagnosis. A pro analysis. Every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Relax Radio. Through the eyes of the megaminds of our time. The diagnosis. A pro analysis. Every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Relax Radio.
Hello and welcome back. It's once again the diagnosis with Mika. Now today we have Malshi Dissanayake, this glamorous personality, ladies and gentlemen. Like, look at her smile.
Oh, stop.
I'm being honest at this moment. So we were talking about puppy fates. Now, as a Sri Lankan youth, how? Okay, I'm not gonna ask that. I'm sorry. I was gonna ask how old you are, but then no. As a Sri Lankan youth, how hard it is. Was it challenging? It obviously was, right? Starting your own business and that to an online business. Because there's a
Um,
lot of competitors when it comes to online business, right?
yeah. The thing is, when I started my like business, right? So we thought about me and my business partner. We thought about so it is a very like foreign concept to Sri Lanka, like
Yes.
puppies. Outfit for puppies, it's not like you don't see it everywhere. So like let's say if it's like it's not common, like even
It is
even
not.
even even like even online, like if you search it up, like you don't find many store like shops and like online stores with outfit for puppies. It is very like it's common like out there in the world, but to Sri Lanka the concept is kind of still new. So lucky for us, lucky for me. Yeah, so like in terms of competitors, it we had it. We like I want like when we came up with the idea, I was like, oh yeah, that's new because I wanted to do something new and unique and like not that will like help us with the business and like no competitors. So
You're glad that there are no competitors.
yeah, for now.
For now, yes. Now, once again, talking about the youth, because you're like very young. Was your age something that you considered when you started everything, all this?
Okay, so I'm 20. Uh, um,
I could have asked that.
yeah, but I did say that when in the beginning of the
Oh, I'm
video.
sorry.
So with my age, okay, so it was not a concern to me, but I always thought about what other people would think about me, right?
Oh, so
So
it did bother you.
it did bother me in a way because, so when I'm like introducing myself for work purposes, I don't lead with my age because I sometimes it can be a disadvantage because like
Yes.
people might underestimate or undermine because of the age, like oh
Especially in Sri
she's
Lanka, I guess.
yeah, she's very young, she doesn't know what she's doing, right? So I don't lead with my age, like I don't tell my age until they ask me actually. um so like especially like the business part is kind of like when it comes to the business it's like okay, but when it comes to like my career, my 9 to 5 as a marketer, so like when I'm conversing with people and clients and like from overseas and when I'm talking to them and when I'm dealing with them, they don't they always they think I'm older than what I actually
Oh,
am. I don't know if that's a compliment or like I should be offended or like
I don't think you should be offended. In my opinion, I don't think you should be, because they're like it's amazing how you're young, but then your capabilities, they're like
I'm okay. So it's like so they always assume I'm older than my age because sometimes they don't see me either.
yeah.
They just hear my voice or like we're just conversing through mails and whatever. So they're like so when I tell them my age, they get surprised. They're like, oh, you're still a baby. You're still young, and I'm like, yeah, like. So like sometimes it's like I don't know how I feel about it. Sometimes I feel kind of proud. I feel like oh like I'm young but I'm here. So I feel proud, but also at the same time I'm like okay I should not tell this person my age because they're definitely gonna judge me, and like I sometimes fear that people would like underestimate me, like before seeing my work they would be like
Yeah.
no, like they would second guess on giving me certain projects and working with me, so I don't necessarily lead with my age when I'm talking to people. Yeah.
That actually does make sense. And I think that at the same time you actually does feel proud about that, but then as you said, you don't know how to feel about that. I think we've been there as girls who like run a
Yeah.
couple of things.
And I mean, like, it's very unfortunate that people just like think just because you're young, you
Exactly.
don't know what. Like, it's very generalized. Okay, like at this age, you don't know what you're doing. Like that's their mindset. At
Exactly.
this age, like, you trust me, girl, you don't know what you're doing. I'm like, no, this is what I want to do. Like, I'm sure. Like,
I've written
no,
it down. I know what I'm doing.
yeah, like literally I write. I mean, like, and they're like, no, no, you don't know what you're doing. And maybe that's true. Maybe that's true
In a
to a certain
way.
extent, because we grow. We, like, in another 10 years I might be doing something completely different. But like, we have generalized it too much, where we associate our age with our capabilities, or like what we can do, or what we can aspire to do. What, okay, like, if you, let's say we're starting a business, and like, someone's like, oh no, I'm too young for this. No, you're not.
Yeah.
It's okay to start young, like,
I think it's better to start young.
it's better to start young. And like, speaking of that, like, I had this conversation with one of my friends, where like, he wants to start a business, but he keeps telling me, no, now is not the right time, like the country's situation and everything. And then, when, like, before, when I asked him, he was like, no, like, I'm still not ready. I'm like, okay, when? Okay, when? Like, cause, like, think about it. There's always gonna be something. Like,
Exactly.
when, how do we know who sets the standard to, like, how do we know that we are completely ready? Who sets that standard? Right? Like, we can never know. Like, we cannot wait for, like, the perfect environment, the perfect, like, all the knowledge, because there's, like, how much, there's always gonna be more that you can learn.
Exactly.
Like, you can never know everything, right? You got to start at some point. You got to take that leap of faith at some point. If you just wait around for, like, the perfect situation, for everything to line up for you, right? Because it quite doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
Sometimes you got to go out there and line up things for yourself, right? You can't just wait for, like, every situation, the environment to line up for you, and everything to just, like, your finances to be right. Like, you have to have, to a certain extent,
Exactly.
yes, but like, you cannot wait for everything to
To be
be
perfect.
perfect,
Yes.
right? And like, it's like, it's something that we do because we are so afraid to fail. We are so afraid to fail that we don't start at all.
Exactly.
We're so afraid to fail that we wait until everything lines up, because, and like, we end up not starting at all because of that. So yeah.
Yeah, so you don't definitely shouldn't wait for everything to be perfect. Rather start it and work on your imperfections and then
Yeah,
make
you
it
can you
perfect.
can learn stuff. Like, I mean, like, obviously you have to have a certain amount of knowledge and certain amount of resources, but like, don't wait until, like, all the stars line up for you, because it doesn't work
It
that
doesn't
way.
happen.
It doesn't happen. I mean, maybe for some people it does. Like, if it does work out for you that way, then
Once in
you're
a
like
blue moon,
really
I guess.
lucky. But like, most of the time it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. And like, we have to work our way, like, around it, and we learn as we go, right? We may make mistakes and we learn as we grow. So like,
Now, how does it feel to have your own business running at
uh,
this age?
it
Amidst
feels
amidst all the other stuff that you do, how does it feel?
okay. So for I think, running, like, making a brand, right? It's not just about running, but most difficult thing is like, starting, right? So, building a brand is like telling a story. Cause like, okay, so when I started Puppy Fits, right, I had to look into like color psychology when I made the logo and the brand colors. And then I kind of used the knowledge that I gained from the other things I do, like the other pillars,
Yeah.
and like other work I do. I kind of use that knowledge into building the brand. So, like, building a brand is like telling a story. It's a very interesting thing. So.
And so far, you've been telling it very well, I assume.
I hope so.
Now,
I gotta be doing something right, right? I'm here.
exactly. Now, Before we move on for more questions, I want to quickly remind you guys of how you can stay connected with us. Obviously, we are available on all the social media platforms, literally everything out there. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter as well. And don't forget to subscribe the YouTube channel of Relax Radio and to download the Relax Radio app, which is available on both iOS and Android devices. So make sure that you go and download it right now so that way we can stay connected 24/7, 365. If you want to stay updated, if you want to know about Malshi and about everyone who is out there, who like the different Malshis out there. If you want to know about everything, just go ahead and head into the Relax Radio. That's what you can do, and also go and follow Malshi and follow her work. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that you will be amazed by her work.
And speaking of staying connected, my handle is at Malshi Writes. Follow me on Instagram. And the business is at puppyfits.lk.
Obviously, yes, I think we forgot to mention about Puppy Fits. Do I think you should go and check it out. You should go and check it out. Just go and check it out. It's very adorable. So now coming back to not to Puppy Fits, about your studies.
Oh.
You're handling a lot, so I have to section everything and talk about one thing at a time. So let's just talk about something about your studying, what you're studying and everything.
Currently undergoing a bachelor's of science in psychology. Yeah, it's a very interesting field. So, like, I do realize that my the place of work and the side hustles and they're very different from each other. So yeah.
Now, psychology. What made you choose psychology, actually? Because that's very interesting. And come to think of it, you're a poet as well. So, did it had any effect? You being a
Um,
poet in you choosing psychology.
so I've always been passionate about like social issues. And also like when it comes to my poetry as well, I address a lot of emotion, right? I address like my poetry is about like different emotions and I care about emotion and I want to learn more about it. Like I guess it it has influenced it kind of in a way, like my writing and then everything. I just so I always like, okay, so I wanted to know like what, like I want to make people feel things, right? That's one of the reasons I write, to make people feel things, like again, like different emotions, like whatever that is, like comfort, whatever. So I've always been interested in how people feel and like why people feel a certain way, right? For example, when it comes to science, right? We see this thing, but like what, what is, how is it built? The science of it, just like that, like a human mind, I think, where these emotions are stemming from, how we operate, why we react a certain way, right? Psychology brings a light to why we are the way we are, and it's very, like, I find it very intriguing. To I'm a nosy person, I guess. I want to know what makes people who they are.
That actually does make
And
sense.
yeah.
That honestly does make sense, and it is like the reason that you gave is perfect as well, and we cannot actually question about that. So when talking about psychology, now what do you think of psychology being there as a subject? People and student in general, they have access to psychology, they have access to study about human minds and how they work and everything. What's your opinion on that? Is it a
um
necessity, having
yes, yes.
psychology as a subject?
Yes, because especially speaking in terms of Sri Lanka, right? Now, like the newest trend is like everybody hits the gym. Everybody goes to the gym, and I'm not undermining that. Like you should stay fit, but like it is more spoken of than mental health. Like people like focuses more on physical health compared to mental health, I feel like, because that now it has kind of become an aesthetic, like, it has kind of become it's something that everybody does, like everybody hits the gym, they have a diet, like if you go online you can see like people this like fitness lifestyle bloggers
Yeah,
are like
and even apps that have been created for them
yeah,
specifically.
yeah. So like in comparison, I feel like people focuses a lot on physical health compared to mental health,
Yes.
because and I think the reason behind it is when you have like even something's wrong with your physique, like something, you're struggling in terms of physical health, the result of it is physical. You can see it,
Yeah.
like you can see it, like okay, like I'm having a stomach ache, right? Or like I'm having a rash, because it's like physically manifest. You can
Visible.
see,
Yeah.
yeah, visible, so it's more believable,
Mm.
so we work on it more and it gets spoken about
Oh
more.
yes.
But like, do we do that for mental health? You can't see if someone's depressed, like, like, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
I
not
do
very,
get you.
it's
Yes.
not very obvious. It's not like a rash, it's not like, oh, a rash in your hand,
Yeah.
you can see, right? So it gets spoken about less. People realize it less. People pay less attention to it in comparison. This
Exactly.
is like, I know that there are people who speak on mental health on social media, and there are apps for mental health as well, like
Yeah.
keeping track of your emotions as well. But um, when looking at it, like physical health gets spoken a lot more than mental health. And yeah, so we have to fill that gap,
Exactly.
because it is just as important as physical health. They go hand in hand. If you're not mentally healthy, that's gonna leak out your system, right? If you're stressing, right, your brain is gonna make cortisol, and like you're gonna get gastritis, and like it works hand in hand,
Yes.
right? And the thing is, people are not aware of that. They think that the two separate things. No, it goes hand in hand. So while we head to the gym, right, we got to go to the therapist as well. Like, they go hand in hand. We got to do both, right?
Yeah.
To stay fit, because again, if you're physically down, let's say if you're physically not well, that'll affect your mental health, because you're unwell, so you're not feeling the best, right? So just like that, your mental health will affect your physical health as well. So I think it's important that we have access to both physical and mental health. Like in Sri Lanka as well, I think that children, youth should have access to both the types equally. Yeah.
Exactly. I do completely agree with you because, as you said, even though we cannot see what's actually going on in someone's head, doesn't mean that it's not there,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So, I totally agree with you. Now, coming back to you and you handling everything, how do you feel? And you know, let's face it. Okay, let's count it down. You are a poet. You're an entrepreneur who runs her own business, and you're studying, and you're also doing a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
Now, how challenging it is, especially being in Sri Lanka, in a country where we're facing an economical crisis, a political crisis, a financial crisis, all together, and also not. I mean, the brown aunties as well. You have to deal with them
Yeah.
as well
Oh
on a
my
daily
God, they're the
basis.
worst.
Now, how challenging is that?
Speaking of the brown aunties, because let's
Let's
get
start
that.
with that.
Let's
Yes.
start with that, because then I want to get it like off the. Um, I need to speak about my parents, right?
Okay.
My parents are like okay, what they have done right is given me so much freedom. I do have a lot of freedom to pursue what I like. Like, I was never told, do this. Like, you have to do this. You have to do this to be successful. Like, I was given the opportunity to choose for myself. And I do understand that most people in Sri Lanka do not get the choice. They do not get the choice to choose their passion or choose for themselves. And
Exactly.
like my parents have always been like, okay, you do whatever you love, do whatever that makes you happy. And
Because at the end of the day, that's what matters, right?
yeah,
Being
and
happy.
they have given me the freedom to go out there and explore and find what I want to do. And I think I have taken the best advantage. Like, I've taken good advantage of that
Uh-huh.
freedom. So yeah, like, speaking of the family, that's it. Like, and yeah, speaking of the economic recession that's happening, um So before this, like we had to deal with corona.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. It was like one after
we
the
can't
other.
forget that. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So when that happens, right? We were social, like we were isolated, right? This affects a lot of people's mental health as well as physical health. Again, like it goes hand in hand. So there were people, right? There were a group of people. They were like they were depressed about the situation, and like they were like they were scared, and the economic crisis as well. Like they were like they're panicking. And then there's also this like a like minority, like I've noticed some of my friends, they were like, oh, like they who have businesses as well, like online small businesses. They have like within that time period of staying home during the pandemic, they have like, okay, no, I started this hobby, I started this business as a hobby, and now it's like pretty established. And I'm just like, okay, so they have actually taken advantage of that time.
Exactly.
Right. So I'm not like trying to downplay like the effects of like the economic recession and the pandemic, but like think about it, um like I understand what people are going through, and like it's like it's really hard. But if we try to find opportunity in even in losses, right, if we try to be optimistic, that will get us somewhere. I feel
Exactly.
like somewhere to a certain extent. I understand that that the economical crisis is like it can affect, because if you don't have basic needs you can't function. That is that is completely true. But also, like when it comes to the pandemic and stuff, there were people who took like advantage of the situation, advantage of the extra time that they got to build certain things.
Exactly.
So yeah, we cannot like completely avoid the problem. Like there is a problem, clearly, but what we can do is we can look at things to a certain extent with a optimistic mindset, and like search for opportunities in in a period of loss, right? That will get us somewhere, I feel like.
That's actually very true. So true. Now, that coming out from a 20-year-old is, ugh.
Yeah. You keep complimenting me.
Okay, now, actually, I would love to talk more about that. And I do feel that we have a lot to talk as well. But then time is getting in our way. And
Yeah.
I'm so, so sad about that. Because this personality right here, ladies and gentlemen, is honestly.
Stop.
Let me stop it. Okay, let me stop it. Okay, let me stop it properly.
Okay.
But before we wind things up, we've come to the end of the program, but sadly, we've come to the end of the program. But don't worry, because hopefully we'll see Malshi again here at Relax Radio. Now, before winding things up, Malshi, now there might be people out there, youngsters out there who was inspired by you. What do you have to say to them? And also
My
maybe speak a couple of words about how you feel about the program as well, so I
okay.
can feel a bit happy.
Okay, so my what do you call it? Advice or whatever, uh, so is to start young. Don't be afraid to start young, and don't wait for everything to line up for you. Don't wait for the right moment. Just start. At some point you got to just start, and yeah, be brave.
Be brave, yes, that's nice.
And follow your passions. Don't at some point in your life you will get fed up of what other people say. Like you cannot please everyone anyway, right? So you got to make sure you're happy and you're doing what you love. Yeah, and you're putting yourself out there. Explore. If you're young, explore what you want to do, because you don't know if you like it or not until you try it out. Try different things. You might end up loving something that you think that you might not be into. Like you wouldn't know until you try it. So my advice to most people is to like try different things, go out there, explore. Yeah, explore yourself, explore your interests, and always like keep in mind that it is possible to do it all, right? You don't have to choose studies over your job or like this over that. It is possible to juggle, it is possible, but like you have to always like keep up with your mental health as well. Not like tire yourself and beat yourself around, but like it is possible to like, you don't
If
have
we
to
properly
choose,
manage
you don't have to
everything.
choose between your happiness and the career that the society is pushing on you, and you don't have to choose between your job and studies. You can do both. Yeah, nothing's stopping you. It's just things that you have created, like boxes that you have put yourself into
Oh wow. See,
sometimes.
I told you, ladies and gentlemen, she's talking poetry.
And then about the program, and like I'm so glad that you guys call me here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you for coming here. We
And
really,
thank
really
you for
appreciate
having
it.
me here. It's a nice program, and it has given me the opportunity and a platform to ramble, to speak. Yeah. Thank you so
I
much for
mean, we
having
won't
me.
mind you rambling because you literally speak poetry. Now, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the Diagnosis, a Pro Analysis, where we talk about literally everything that's happening in the country. Now, don't worry, we'll be right back, the same time, same day next week with another glamorous personality. But hopefully, Aiden will be back next week, providing you the funky personality he is. So, until then, stay safe and take care. And make sure, once again, to follow us on all our social media platforms and to follow Malchi's book as well as her Puppy Feeds, her business, which you will adore. So, that being said, this is Mika Thompson, your host, signing out in hopes to meet you very soon. Till then, take care.
Through the eyes of the megaminds of our time. The Diagnosis. A Pro Analysis. Every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. on Relax Radio.